So, so basically, we're looking at something that we call the 6-zone strategy. So what we've got basically across the baseline are 6 areas. So 1 and 6 are basically outside the singles lines. 2 and 5 are your traditional cross-court areas. And 3 and 4 are basically the middle of the court. So you need to understand that 1 to 6 idea for this whole thing to actually fit into place. We know statistically most winners are hit from zone 1 and 2. That's where we get most of the winners hit from. As such, we need to avoid those areas. So we need to be trying not to put the ball into zone 2 or zone 5. Now, if you think about that in how we actually practice, how many of you would actually practice cross-court rallies? So rally forehands, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, however many balls as part of your normal practice. But we shouldn't actually be practicing to put the ball into zone 2 or 5. So if we look at just zone 1, what we're looking at now is decision making. So where should I be trying to put the ball? If you're in zone 1, realistically, you should be hitting to 3 or 4. Okay, ideally to number 4, because it's the center of the court. You're not giving any angles to your opponent, and it's the backhand side of the center. And very few people can hurt you with a backhand from the middle of the court. Okay. What would happen normally with a lot of kids is they would be looking to hit that down the line winner. But you can see if you go down the line, there isn't that much space to hit. So the odds of hitting it are pretty slim. So realistically, if you're wide on the court, if you're in zone 1, realistically, you should be looking to actually defend the ball, not anything else. Okay. So if you're in zone 1, you should really be looking to go to 3 or 4 and defending that position. Okay. So if we then go to zone 2, zone 2 is where you control the point from. So zone 2, you can actually then start to look to hit winners. So in this example, I've gone for a wide cross court or a short cross court angle to actually open up the court. So in this position, in zone 2, you control the court, you control the rally, and you have the right to go wherever you want. In zone 3, obviously you're still in the center of the court. There is the choice, if you've got a very good topspin short angle, you can go to zone 1. If not, you're going back to 3 and 4 to defend. And again, going to 4, the backhand option is obviously better than going into 1. Zone 4, the opposite to 3. Obviously, you've got the down the center to 3 and 4. You have the option of hitting to 6 if you've either got a very good backhand short angle, or you can get round and hit as an inside out forehand. So you have the option then of going the other way. Zone 5, again, you're controlling the court, so you can go anywhere you want. Again, in this example, I've gone to zone 6 to try and actually hit the winner. And then the last one, again, zone 6, when you're pushed outside the court, you should really be trying to defend. And by defending, you're going to hit 3 or 4. So in that so far, there are very simple choices. If you're in 1 or 6, you're going to defend. you're going to go up and down the middle. 2 or 5, you can try and win the point. 3 and 4, you're pretty much going to go back to the middle of the court. This is why so much of the women's game is played up and down the middle of the court, because they don't have the same ability, because of various reasons, to open up the court the same as the men do. So the women can't hit 1 and 6 as easily, as consistently, because of the physical side of it, as the men can, which is why you see a lot more of the women's game 3 and 4 up the middle of the court rather than the short angles. So what we need to do to start putting this in terms of patterns of play is to understand what your players are capable of actually doing. So if we mark out the court with the zones, we can very simply start to feed the ball to zone 1 and see which of these zones our players can hit from zone 1. So can you hit 1 to 1, 1 to 2, 1 to 3, 1 to 4, 1 to 5? Obviously, you're not going to hit 1 to 6 because it would be out. So is your player able to hit all the different zones from that position? And you need to take a record of that, because we need to look back at that and work out what they can and can't do. Repeat the same thing again then from zone 2. Can you hit 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5? Again, feeding the ball, making sure they can hit those accurately. And then work across the same to zone 3, same to zone 4, same to zone 5, and eventually the same to zone 6. So can you actually hit these different areas from that position? When you're in zone 4 and 5, you can also do it as a forehand. So it doesn't have to be a backhand. You can feed it with a backhand and you can feed it as a forehand, because somebody may be able to hit from 5 to 6 with a forehand with a short angle inside out, but they might not be able to hit the same angle with a backhand. And we need to know the difference between the two. Okay. So what we're looking at then now, you should have a chart then of all the different positions on the court, all the different places where they need to hit the ball, and then an effectiveness of each one. So how good are they at hitting all those different zones? That will then help you decide how to build a pattern. Okay. So are there any questions so far?
Not from me.
No. Okay. If you've got any as we go, if you want to put them in the chat box, then I can pick them up as we go.
Okay.
Okay. So, right. So the next layer then. Okay. So as we layer this up. So for every ball that you get on the court, there are pretty much 3 options. Okay. There's a low risk, a medium risk, and a high risk. So, and those options will depend on the player's strengths and their styles of play. So we've always got choices, and it depends on the individual player what happens. We're looking at trying to make sure we understand the players, what they can and can't do, to develop patterns of play based on those. Too often for me, the coaches determine the patterns of play. And I've seen many cases where all the players are taught the same patterns. So, for example, 2 cross and 1 down the line. But not every player has the same abilities. So why would we teach everybody the same pattern if that pattern doesn't suit them? So if we're looking now at layering these 2 things up, okay, so if I'm in zone 1, I can't go to zone 2 or 5 because that's where most of the winners are hit from. So I can't go to 2 or 5. My easiest one, my best option is zone 4, the backhand side of the center, The next best choice is the center, but on the forehand side. And my high risk shot would be 1-1. Yeah. So we've got now then, depending where you are on the court, you've only really got 3 choices, because 2 and 5, you should never go to 2 and 5. Okay, in this at this moment. So if we're in zone 2, again, 2 and 5 are out. 4 is my best choice. 3 is my second best choice. And number 1 again is the highest risk option. Okay. So if we go to zone 3, so zone 3, again, 2 and 5 are out. 4 is my easiest choice. 3 is my second choice. And 1 is a very tough shot from the center of the court, but it is an option. So zone 4 now going the other way. Again, still 2 and 5 are out. 4 is the easiest, 3 is the second, and now 6 as the wide one, either as a short angle backhand, or we're looking obviously at the inside out forehands. Okay, zone 5, same thing, 2 and 5 are out, 4, 3, and 6. And then zone 6, the final one, obviously the same again, 4, 3, 6. So as we go through these different zones, you'll see basically you have the same 3 choices. Your low risk is always 4, your medium risk is 3, and your higher risk is the wider ball. Okay. Now at this stage, we're still not bringing into the choice things like drop shots or anything like this. This is just standard baseline play. So in terms of working with the players, their decision making becomes much easier, because it depends on the level of the risk, because you really only have 3 choices. You're either going to zone 4, zone 3, or 1 or 6 if you're going wide. So it makes those decisions much easier, and it's decisions that often the kids get wrong. And then to be able to add this now to the next level, it's where we're looking at winning the game. So 2 consecutive points, if you're the first player to win 2 consecutive points, you have a 72% chance of actually winning the game. Therefore, it's critical to be the first player to win those 2 consecutive points. So what we need to do then is to understand the importance of each point. So are you then trying to win a point, or are you trying not to lose a point? So if we ask you to play a game and to try and win a point, would you play differently than if you were trying not to lose one? And generally, yes, you would. What we don't mean, though, is defend. So when we say don't lose the point, it doesn't mean you just hack away and moonball everything. What it means is you reduce your risk. So instead of going too close to the line, you just come a little bit nearer into the line. You just reduce the risk. You don't actually defend, but just to reduce the risk. If you get the chance to hit a winner, you hit a winner. It's not that you stop and change. Okay, so I just got a question on the double hander. 1 and 6 are doubles only. 1 and 6 are basically the areas on the singles court outside the singles lines. So it's if you push somebody wide. So that's what that one's for, if it gets pushed out there. So going back to the two-point rule, then we need to understand the importance of winning the 2 consecutive points. So I don't know whether anybody's ever seen flow charting before, but this is an idea of flow charting. So the yellow line across the middle is love all. That's where we actually start the game. So if we then go, you win a point, you go up 1 square. So that would go 15 love, 30 love, 30, 15, 30 all, 40, 30, game 1 love. Okay. And then you keep going. So then it would go after that. It then goes 15 love to the other server, 15 all, 30, 15, 30 all, and so on, all the way through until eventually you get to the end and this game has finished at 6-1. Okay. What you can also then do at the end is if you count the number of squares above the yellow line, so in this case it's 5, that player has won 5 more points than their opponent in that whole set. So even though that set's been won 6-1, which would imply it's been a pretty easy game, there's only actually 5 points in it. And I've obviously done this chart just to show you that every time somebody won 2 in a row, they actually won the game. Okay. I try and teach the kids that I work with, and I also teach the parents how to do this. It's very, very simple to do, just a piece of graph paper, a bit of paper, and you get a nice idea, and then it starts helping players understand this 2-point rule. But also when we go further on, we start looking at momentum, how to build momentum, how to change momentum, and those kind of things. So it's a very useful, very simple little tool, but very useful. And I'd say gets across this point of winning 2 in a row. So if we now apply the rule based on the score, so if the score was 15 love, on the next point, player A should be trying not to lose the point, and player B needs to win that point. Because they've lost that first point, they need to win the next point. If it's gone 15 all, then it switches. Because now player B's won a point. So if they win the next point, they're the first player to win 2 in a row. So now they don't want to lose the next point, but the other player has to now win it. Okay, then goes 30-15. So again, now player A doesn't need to lose the point. Player B needs to win it. Then it goes 40-15. Again, at that stage now, player A doesn't need to lose the point, but player B has to win the point. Does that all make sense? Yeah. Okay. So again, the second example, player A wins the first point, don't lose the second point. Goes to 30 love, don't lose that point. Goes to 30-15. They still don't need to lose that point because they were the first to win 2 consecutive points. Okay. Then when it goes to 30 all, they need to win again. So it's understanding the score in the game, understanding the way that score's been built, how we then apply that 2-point rule. So in terms of working with the players, just a simple game is for one player to just try and win every point and the other player to try not to lose, and then swap. And then talk to them about the mentality. How did that actually feel when you're trying to win the point all the time or trying not to lose the point? I'm pretty sure we've discussed previously the Spanish philosophy of match play when they're teaching kids in the first place. And basically, they teach their players to become very difficult to beat. So they teach them how to defend before they teach them how to attack. So make yourself very difficult to beat before you start trying to beat other people. And you can apply that to so many other sports. Even if you look at the Premier League now, when new managers come into teams that are struggling, the first thing they try and do is to improve the defense. Let's try and be difficult to beat before we start trying to win. So that kind of mentality, you can see with the way that the players grow up playing their tournaments and competitions in Spain. Here, we seem to want to teach the players to win the points. but it's very difficult to win points. So statistically, there are only 5 players in the world that win more points than they lose in a season. Only the top 5 players in the world actually win more points than they lose. So to teach players to win points, you need to be in the top 5 in the world to make that work. Otherwise, you're going to struggle. So understanding the mindset of when to try and win a point and when to try not to lose the point is really important to get this across in terms of developing match players. So now we need to put the 2 things on top of each other. So if you're in zone 1, okay, and you're trying not to lose the point, you're going to go back to 4 or 3. If you're in zone 1 and you need to try and win the point, you need a higher risk strategy. Therefore, you need to be looking for that short angle, cross-court, topspin, short angle to push your opponent out into zone 1. Okay, so basically, if you don't need to win the point, go back up the middle. If you need to win the point, increase the risk. Zone 2, exactly the same. If you don't need to win the point, go back up the middle. If you need to win the point, you have to increase the risk. Zone 3, the same, exactly the same. Zone 4, we're going now in reverse. So again, still 4 down the middle to be safe, or open at the court if you want to win the point. Same in 5, okay, and the same in 6. So again, in terms of decision making, it becomes very easy for the kids. Again, how many times would you work with a junior where if they're in zone 6, they try and hit that down the line? That's the one they go for. They go for the glory shot. But it's so difficult to hit. On the move, outside the court, to hit down the line, over the high part of the net, to get it up, over and down, the target area is so small. And even if you hit that area, you're putting it into zone 2, which means you're actually giving control back to your opponent. So it would have to be a clean winner. And the odds of that working are pretty slim, especially at junior level. But that's the shot they go for most, and that's the shot they miss the most. So again, if you go back through these slides, we've got the same options, down the middle or wide. Am I trying to win the point, or am I trying not to lose the point? Okay. Zone 2 and zone 5, can you ever hit these zones? Yes, you can, but only if you've opened up the court with a previous shot. So if you actually go wide, then you can then go down the line. So you can go from 2 to 1, and then you can go 2 to 5. But if you don't hit 1, you can't go to 5. Okay. Similarly, if you go from 5 to 6, you can then go 5 to 2. Okay. So you can hit those zones, but only if you've opened up the court first. Basically, if you control zone 2 and zone 5, you control the court. So if you can control those 2 zones, you're in charge of the court. Okay. If you want, you can simplify it depending on the level that you're working with. So if you want, you can just go down to 5 zones and make zone 3 that middle of the court section. So it makes it even easier then for the kids. If the level's not that good, if the skill level's not that good, then obviously the zones are too small for them to be able to hit. So you can easily then just make the center of the court 1 zone. So I know we've talked about the KISS method before, so keep it simple, stupid. For me, a lot of the players, it's all about decision making. So they make the right decision, but at the wrong time, or the wrong decision, but the right time, or the wrong decision even at the wrong time. Not too many juniors actually make the right decision at the right time. And a lot of it is because of the technical ability. So the technical ability gives you tactical options. The better your technique, the more options you have. So if you don't have a heavy topspin forehand, for example, you're going to find it very difficult to open up the court. So if you can't open up the court, so if you can't hit to zone 1 and push somebody out wide on that forehand, you're going to find it very difficult to hit any winners, because your only option is to go down the line to zone 5, but you don't want to put your opponent into zone 5. So if you don't have that short angle, it becomes very difficult then to open up the court. So the technical ability will control the tactical options. And I know we've discussed it on the courses before, you know, which should come first and not. You know, we've always taught the technical elements first. And I know the LTA basically always teach the tactics first. But you can be a tactical genius, but if you don't have the technical ability to apply that tactic, then the tactics are worthless. So the technical side has to dictate the tactical side. It can't be the other way around. And what we're wanting to do is to build thinking players. Again, too many times the coaches are telling the kids what to do. But then in a match play situation, if that's not working, they don't know how to solve that problem. So we're trying to create players that can think. But using this method, it's very simple. You pretty much have very limited choices once you understand the 5 or 6 zones, whichever you're going to go with. Once you understand the 2-point rule, and then when you can combine them, the match play becomes very easy. And you don't make too many mistakes, and you just go for the winners when you should be going for them. And that's the key, is to get the players to understand.